Yeah, there's certain references where it's just these watches like absolutely stand the test of time, and that's one of them.
And I go, boonk. And the guy was like, what?
Wait, what? Yeah, I mean, Patek made a lot of different Calatravas, and that design has just always stuck out to me.
And these were born a few months apart. When we speak about aging, and we can compare them to cars. And you see one that has 400 miles, and you see one that has 400,000 miles. It's really one of my favorite timepieces.
No trip to Geneva would be complete without a pop-in to our dear friends, the Davidoff Brothers. We only have one of the two brothers sitting with us, Mr. Roy Davidoff. He has some amazing new watches in inventory to take a look at, and I picked out a couple, he picked out a couple. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. What do you have on the table for us today, Mr. Davidoff?
All right, so welcome. First, let's go maybe alphabetically. One of the coolest watches that you rarely see is this wrist coin watch.
I pulled that out because you never see those, yeah.
So
forgotten art.
I actually have a cool story about this. Back a long time ago when I worked in a jewelry exchange, a coin guy came to me and said, this looks like a Swiss coin. It's really weird. It's an odd weight. And I look at the coin and I look on the side and I see the slit for the pusher. And I'm looking at him and I go, boonk. And the guy was like, what?
Wait, what?
And then it just showed that you have a beautiful little wristwatch inside.
Which brand is this? I can't see.
So this is an AP.
Oh, wow.
So what's cool about it is a bit different. Usually you see them like Piaget and many other brands, but this AP is quite spectacular. The condition is really nice. You can see a beautiful coin edge. So I think these watches were also used as table clocks. I'm not sure about that, but that would make sense.
Would make sense, yeah.
As the coin watches were.
Yeah, they've always been interesting to me, and it's a great size too. And it's something that it's kind of, you have to know, because somebody looks on your wrist and they see a coin, and it's a nice conversation piece where you get to open it up and show them what it is.
So one of the ways to be sure that it was born as a wristwatch and not as a coin that was transformed is the size of the pusher. Whenever the pusher is fully integrated in the case, that means that it was a pocket watch.
Okay.
And if the pusher is out, then it was a wristwatch.
Interesting. Very cool.
Moving on.
Let's talk about the Breguet Perpetual right here. One of my favorite watches. While I am partial to the regular early version of the 3050 that's more symmetrical, I guess you could say, I just kind of love that watch because it's so different, especially for the era that it's like a smorgasbord of complications all over the dial.
So as you said, it's a smorgasbord of complications on the dial. The kookiest thing you'll notice about this wristwatch, the majority of them have this little chain, but this little chain actually holds the pin pusher inside the strap, this being the original strap. This watch comes full set, box, papers, instructional manual. It's like a proper A4 size. It's a closed case back because it's an early example. You can see the condition is absolutely spectacular, safe kept most of his life, I believe. Really very little signs of wear. The incredible thing about this is that it has the equation of time as well as having a perpetual calendar. And usually when we speak about equation of time, we think of AP and we don't really think of Breguet, but Breguet really brought that out already in the early 90s.
Under Daniel Roth too, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's quite a spectacular piece with having the months, the day of the week, and it has the power reserve and the plus and minus 15 minutes with the day being a date window, which is quite cool for that time period. And of course, being a sick piece. Even the instruction manual is quite cool. All right, moving on.
I picked out this one, correct me if I'm wrong, 2509.
Exactly.
In yellow gold, just because the condition looked so nice. I was like, where do you find this? This is absolutely insane. I've always loved this reference because it is a larger size Calatrava, similar to the 2508. It is waterproof, so they tend to, be a little bit nicer because there is at least some waterproofedness, into it from a 60s watch. And I love the way the lugs curve and sit on your wrist. It's just such a fantastic wrist feel watch. I guess is the best way to put it. What could you tell us about this one?
So what I particularly love about the two references you mentioned, 2508 and this being 2509, the main difference is one being center seconds and the 2509 being a sub-seconds.
Correct.
Is, as you mentioned, the FB case, which is Bourgel. And the nice thing is that you see the little dust cover and all the proper stamping inside of the case back, which are really, really cool. You know that they made all the luxury waterproof cases, whether it was for
Movado. Yeah, exactly.
All the Vacheron, Movado, Patek.
Right.
And it even has the original period correct buckle. You can see that the dial has even aging, the Zapon. It has some little bit of aging that shows that it's correct, that it wasn't washed, it wasn't refreshed, it's just spectacular. It's all the enameling is quite raised. So this we would call an enamel print dial. where they actually engrave the metal. They would put the black enamel, cook it, and they would do like a muffin.
Right.
Like a muffin top.
That's the best way to, kind of like describe it.
All the rules of design are applied, and this was really quite a spectacular little Calatrava.
Yeah, I mean, Patek made a lot of different Calatravas, and that design has just always stuck out to me as being one of the more interesting.
2508, 2509.
Right. Yeah, there's certain references where it's just these watches like absolutely stand the test of time, and that's one of them.
100% agreed. All right, moving on.
What do you want to go to next?
The last strap watch before we go to all metal bracelets is going to be a popular brand right now, the Urban Jürgensen.
This is a 8 platinum, so big date at 6 o'clock because they also made them without the date. This one, sapphire back, so you get to see the movement. Correct me if I'm wrong, this was the only kind of simple time-only watch that they made in the era.
Yeah, they made the Perpetuals that we know. It feels so comfortable on the wrist with the teardrop lugs. The guilloche of the dial is what really gets me on those. It's because this is something that was quasi unseen at the period, except with Breguet dials and later Daniel Roth. But this, you didn't see any other brands do this. There was really just a handful of people who bothered doing such beautiful hand guilloche dials. Also, the base of the movement, if I'm not mistaken, it's Philippe Piguet, which is a very high quality caliber of a company that was relaunched also to serve Blancpain, that was making also very high calibers at the time. This was a larger piece.
Right.
It's nice because the serial number starts with the reference, and then it's basically a whole bunch of zeros, and then we have a 2-digit number, which means that it's a very early piece.
Yeah, most of these references, they only made around 100 pieces per reference. It was a small team. Baumberger and Pratt, they bought this kind of out of passion to do this. And I like to refer to this era of Urban Jürgensen as like a vintage independent watch, because this is before independence really started to explode. Yeah,
that's what it was.
So I'm really excited to see what Kari Voutilainen has in store.
June 5th.
June 5th?
June 5th.
That's the date?
That's what you know.
I've heard murmurs from people who've seen it that it's incredible. It's different than what they did in the 90s with this brand or this iteration of the brand. But I hear that it's really, really cool,
No doubt they'll do a good job, and the CEO and the people in the company are all people that I know and all great people, so I think they're going to do a great job. Yeah,
I'm excited to see what's in store. I'm a big fan of these watches.
The only funny thing about this watch is that it has a deployment buckle, and platinum deployment buckles didn't exist back then, so it's a steel deployment buckle.
Right, that's with a lot of brands, yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny when you find sometimes steel, white gold on the platinum watch.
Yeah, you'll see that even on Royal Oaks, a platinum Royal Oak with the steel inner buckle, and everybody's like, is that replaced? And I'm like, that's the way they did it.
It's cheaper.
So I picked up the Royal Oak. Let's talk about this one. My all-time favorite Royal Oak, also being the first, reference 5402. This one SA, so stainless steel and yellow gold. This one looks to be really, really nice, which is why I picked it out, because it's hard to find them this nice. Tell us a little bit about this.
So you've covered pretty much all there is. It's a caliber 2121. Everything is homogeneous. You can see the case is still very strong. You can see the dial is untouched. We just recently had the gasket replaced, and the gasket is I think the largest gasket
it's like this
watch industry. It's like the size of the watch, which is the weirdest thing in the world.
Right.
It's really one of my favorite timepieces. It's nice because when you see what they've done fast forward 50 years and what they did back then, it's really the same watch. So I really love the fact that the 5402 turned into diverse references until the 15002, 15202.
Right.
And then lastly, the 16202, which
the design language is clear, straight throughout.
Nice to do that.
Right, I agree. But this for me has always been the most comfortable integrated bracelet sports watch to wear. They're just so fantastic on the wrist. I think the size is perfect. Everything about them is.
I love it's still the Gay Frère type of blade. Doesn't have the Audemars Piguet spelled out. It's just AP because this is not first generation. This is number 771, so it's an early one, but it's not like an A series. And you can really see that this is the original buckle that they had back in the day. There was actually no difference between the steel and the two-tone.
In terms of what, the price?
In terms of buckle.
Oh, in terms of buckle.
No, in terms of price. No. In terms of price, back then these watches were more expensive than the steel one was more expensive than gold counterparts in other brands.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the two-tone one was even more expensive. My father actually bought in the early 80s the quartz counterpart to this one, like the mini jumbo size.
And 36 millimeters.
Yes.
Right.
And it's funny because every time I wear it, people look at it, they think it's a jumbo, and I'm like, no, there's you can see the seconds ticking.
Right.
Anyways, moving on.
Speedy or Rolex / Tudor?
Let's do Tudors first.
Okay. I picked that out because you really don't see that reference 7016 a lot in that condition. I think they're fantastic buys for the money and for what you're getting. It's been a while since I've seen such a nice one.
So the cool thing about this particular watch is this superb pumpkin patina. This is something, people throw around nice patina on dials, but there are very few that come around. I'm going to show you an example after where the watch has patinated, but it is not at all what you would want on a regular civilian watch. Military watches, you have to have more leeway, and we'll get into that in a second. But it has a nice, strong case. This is a rare reference because it is a transitional piece that went from the Rolex Submariner layout, from the rose to the shield, and then later to the snowflake. So this is a very short production where they basically said, okay, this is our new logo, but we're going to have the old look. And they even find, I think, some of those with the snowflake hands that were delivered to the Canadian Navy.
Navy.
So this is a nice everyday knock around. You can see the watch has even aging. The case is quite nice. Case
is great.
Yeah, the bracelet is probably a bit later, but for the price, you can't really go wrong on these type of watches. This Tudor is a great look, and it has a lot of bang for the buck.
That's why I pulled it out. Just because, people always ask me all the time, like if they don't have the budget for like a 5513 Maxi or a 5512 or 1680 red, what should they go for?
Yeah.
Great alternative, because it's essentially the same feel and look, just for a fraction of the price. Maybe not a fraction, but a lot less,
So moving on to two Mexican watches. And how do we know that they're Mexican? There's two telltale. The first one is going to be the bracelet. This is a Mexican-made Jubilee bracelet made by a company called Hosques, JM Bracelets. And you can see Hosques next to the Hecho in Mexico. And before that, you should say Hosques, so you know that it's made there. You had two manufacturers, Holzer and Hosques, that made bracelets that made for Rolex and Omega, which is quite cool. So the other thing that tells you that this is a Mexican watch is that the one that Adam is holding was done for the Mexican airline at the time that became Avianca, if I'm not mistaken. And the second one that I have was a gift by the then president to one of his lieutenants. So it is, and they both have the dates of delivery, which is the engraving is a little bit different, the font, but you can tell that this is what's quite popular back then as a gift to get GMT. So the aeronautics makes quite a lot of sense, especially if you were a pilot or someone. And, multiple time zones, if you're a diplomat, if you work for the government, also a GMT makes a lot of sense. And they've aged quite close to each other. They're really like cousins that grew up together in the same country, and both ended up in our shop.
Nice. Yeah, all the way from Mexico to Geneva.
Yes.
Beautiful examples for sure. Both seem to have like strong cases, beautiful dials.
The patina, and it's nice to see the bezels have a little bit different. This one has a bit more cobalt, and this goes a bit more pinky. And this is a stronger blue, and this is a bit more orangey. And you can see a stronger patina here. The hands have aged a little bit more, and here it's more of a beige patina, pana, cream. Quite nice on this one as well. Moving on.
To end it off, we would be remiss if we did not visit the Davidoff Brothers and see a couple Speedmasters. You have pulled out two early straight lug, look to be 2998 references. Mouthful.
Yes, correct.
Tell us about these, both the lollipop hands. This one looks to be fantastic.
So when we speak about wristwatches, it's very important when we speak about aging and other things, we can compare them to cars. So what I like to explain is I say, if you have a car that was born in 1960 or 61, 62, and you see one that has 400 miles and you see one that has 400,000 miles, and these were born a few months apart, and you can see the aging of the case, the bezel, the dial. You can see this one, the patina for us on a civilian watch wouldn't be acceptable. Because it's military, it's completely accepted. The same thing as having a beat up case on the Comex that was used.
Mil sub,
or a mil sub and all those. And then this one actually comes with a crazy, crazy, crazy full set.
Oh, this is just a very special watch.
So you can tell that this watch really comes with like everything but the kitchen sink, and actually I think it's somewhere in there. This one again being a 298-3, which is correct. You can see the lollipop as the tacky 500 instead of being a tacky base 1000. You can see the beautiful alpha hands, the white counter hands. Everything is as it should be. Moving on to the, I'm not gonna say new stock because it's just minty as can be. Unpolished case, untouched. You can see how sharp the chamfers are in the back with the beautiful FAP on the case back.
Which stands for?
Fuerza Aérea Peruana.
So this was Peruvian Air Force watch. Yeah. But I remember seeing when you guys posted this. This is just wild. I know you have a picture of all the paperwork. I'm assuming the actual paperwork's back in your safe somewhere. But if you see, they have not only the original papers, original hang tag, all of the goodies, but they have a letter which confirms
delivery of this batch of watches with the numbered warranty and the original retailer, which actually now Pedro Reiser from Sotheby's is a direct descendant of this company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is.
But
funny.
doesn't the letter also confirm like how many pieces were delivered?
Yes,
and
it
gives
says
information that we never had.
Exactly. It speaks about the 380 watches that were delivered to the aeronautic FAP, to the base. It was to the mess hall. There was I don't know how to call it in English, the guy who does all the buying for the base.
Okay.
The guys who did that, this is who this was addressed to, because they were the guys buying all the stuff for the military base. So it's quite interesting when you have this letter, as you mentioned, that says from the Omega agent in Peru telling you that we're going to give you 380 watches. They don't specify Speedmasters because it was probably not all Speedmasters.
Right.
Second of all, giving them an extra 1-year warranty, which wasn't the case back then. It was only a 1 year. They gave them a 2-year warranty. And this is from September 1963 onwards. And this is because they know that the product is so good, they're going to give them an extra year.
Right. Well, also probably because of they figured subject to some military action, maybe it would break easier.
You even have the original hang tag, which doesn't mention 321. It mentions the Cro 27, which was the caliber, the 27 millimeter chronograph from Omega. It says CK298 with the full serial number that matches inside. This is really like this is a true collector's museum quality.
Yeah, this is like an impossible find.
Yeah, we really love.
It's a piece of history.
It is, and we really love our watches, especially with everything is flawless. I mean, really, on this the patina is even stronger. I love when I look and you see the mirror finish on the double step case back. This is just everything a collector wants. And the stretch bracelet, everything is as it should be.
No, yeah, that's like end game Speedmaster for me. That's just the whole set just puts it over the top. Like it's irreplaceable. Like truly an irreplaceable watch. Well, dude, thank you so much for sitting down and showing us some watches. They have a lot of other really good stuff. We could have done 2 hours of their whole inventory. We only picked out a few bits. Head to their website. We will link the information below if you want to see some of these watches and see what else they have in store. We will link their Instagram. Give them a follow on Instagram. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.